23 years.
Nice.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday Mastermind. I am going to lead the first half of this one. I am coming to you live out of a JSX terminal on my way to Vegas to speak at an event. We have Sean Herrero joining me as the co-moderator. Usually Sean is the rock star and the leader of the call. What's up, Mr. Herrero? This is a new seat on the bus for you, bro.
I'm excited for this seat. I'm glad to be on this side of it.
Yeah, right. There's no pressure. And then today's special guest, rock star, very good friend of mine, and a really good friend to the entire mortgage industry. We have Ken Perry, the founder and CEO of the Knowledge Coop. What's up, brother?
Dude, thanks for having me. I'm super excited for this. I just flew in last night. I'm actually home. So for a day, I travel every week from now through Thanksgiving. So we caught it on a good time where I'm not in an airport.
How many days a week or days a year are you on a stage speaking to a lot of mortgage professionals?
It's over 100. I don't know. I'd have to look at what the exact number is, but it varies by year, but it's a lot. I mean, 100 would probably include, I'm probably on the road 150 days a year if I had to guess.
And how many mortgage professionals do you think you impact through a combination of your in-person experiences and the Knowledge Coop?
In the Knowledge Cube, Knowledge Cube's got
both
40,000 users. So we're impacting them with all of the training we deliver. And then on stages, thousands every year. Obviously this year will be different actually this year will be better than last year just with numbers. I think people are now wanting to stay in the business, and they want to if you made it through now, you might as well keep going. And so we're seeing a lot more people go, okay, I'm going to invest in my business again. Whereas last year is kind of like, do I invest in my business, or do I have a future here? And I think this year more loan officers okay, I fought through what I fought through. I'm not leaving before the fun stuff starts up again. So this year will be more than last year.
Got it. Well, guys, my frame for everybody in the industry is this is a transformational week in the industry. This is the beginning of a new cycle. I mean, I think it's safe to assume that rates, we've hit a bottom in this cycle in terms of the mortgage recession that we've been in. It's definitely the way it feels, but I think we'll look back a few months from now and a year from now and go, that was the bottom. So it's a new cycle. And then of course, Saturday, tomorrow, we have the NAR settlement changes taking effect. I interviewed Tom Ferry on Wednesday. I'm going to put a link down below to that. I mean, this is a must watch. I mean, it's a 40-minute interview, and there are at least 13 things in this interview that you need to write down, you need to take notes on. And I want everyone to push themselves a little harder going forward. Get level 5 at everything that you do. Level 1 is you know it. Level 2 is you do it. Level 3 is you know it and do it so well that you can teach it. And level 4 is it's a habit. There's a lot of people that know it, do it a little. They can teach it, but it's not a habit. And then level 5, guys, at everything we talk about it's the essence of you. It's who you are, and your results support it. Like anybody that's heard me interview Sean Herrero, dude, he is a level 5 advisor. He is a level 5 modern marketer. He's a level 5 leader. The things that embody the loan officer of the future. He's level 5 at. Ken Perry is a level 5 industry leader. If you ever see this guy on stage, the influence he has, the way he tells stories, it's level 5. And so Ken, what are your thoughts on this? That going forward, we're going to see, a starker difference between the haves and the have-nots, and that the, Pareto's principle, 80-20 is like old school. You're literally going to see a compression of that. That was one of Tom Ferry's big takeaways is, he's like, there are like 400 real estate teams in America that are doing 45 transactions a year. That's it. The 80-20 is kind of old school. Any opinions on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think it's so funny when I saw, like, specifically in our settlement, I saw that list of all the things realtors do. And I was like, that list is, I would not send that list out because it includes, like, I wake up in the morning and you pay me for that. When I was actually looking at Sun River, which you love too, Dave, but we're thinking about buying over there. And I met with this real estate agent. We go looking at houses. She does a killer job for me. And then she says, she goes, do you like the Airbnb you're staying in? And I go, yeah. And she goes, let's see if they'll sell it. And I'm like, what? And she said, 40% of my sales come from houses that weren't listed. And I was like, that's a killer statement. Are you serious? And she goes, yeah. She goes, when people want a house, the one they want isn't always for sale. So it's up to me to go call the person, do the research, walk in, knock on the door. If you want a house, I'm going to get you that house. And I was like, freaking amazing. Give me the buyer's agreement. Let me sign it right now, because that's worth my, in this case, 2%, that I'm going to pay for a buyer's agent in Sun River, a place I don't know. I mean, I know it, but I'm not going to go drive over to the house 4 hours away. And it's those types of things that, like, the really high quality people will not struggle to prove their value. It'll be a little bit different, but it will take the elite to step up and do it and be able to demonstrate it, not just talk about it, and be able to demonstrate, like, these are the exact things, which, by the way, I think loan officers have struggled to do that as well. I think a big struggle for loan officers is I sell loans and you sell loans. And so how am I going to differentiate myself? And I think there's a million ways to do it. And I've seen a lot of people do it really well. But if you can't do that on either side of the business, then it's not going to be great. Like, it's going to be tougher.
Yeah, no doubt. Ken, or not Ken, but Sean, what are your thoughts on the 80-20 rule being old school?
So I don't think it's old school, but I think it's the 80-20 of the 80-20. Like, somebody told me, if you just keep breaking it down, you'll get to the root. And I think that's what's happening is whatever 20% we're doing 80% of the business, that 20% is going to get 80-20'd. Like, we're just going to Pareto principle squared, and then cubed, like whatever comes next. And I think that the tone of this call that I already love, because Ken just gave such a solid point about how he looked at a real estate agent. Like, whoa, you just blew my mind. I need to work with you. No one else would have done that instantaneously. We need to be doing the same thing. And I think this call, I think, will end up being a reality check of, with everything that's going on with NAR, with everything's happening right now, are you positioned for not what's to come, but where we are? So yeah, it's the 80-20 of the 80-20.
Yeah, cool. So, and for the person that asked a question on that, I did a Google search and I put a definition from Wikipedia. And, my whole point is that there's just, people that are delivering great experiences to consumers and creating super tangible value, and they're doing it at scale and they're doing it consistently, are going to gain more and more market share. And so with that said, Ken, let's break down, the title of this is the Loan Officer of the Future. Let's, I have these 8 pillars. I'm a guide for this new platform coming out called the Modern Mortgage IQ, which will be announced at Scriptapalooza on Monday. By the way, anyone watching this, if you have not signed up for Scriptapalooza, we'll put a link down below, but you can just go to winbynoon.com/scripts. And of course, everywhere on social media. Like, I'm promoting it a couple times a day right now. So if you follow me on any social media, like, there's a link. Get signed up. But Sean, when you think of we call them pillars, but when you think of the skills of a modern loan officer of the future, which I think is an advisor. By the way, Ken, this is going to be directed to you, and then I'll bounce back between the two of you. What are some of the pillars that come to your mind, Ken? Like, if we were just going to kind of at a high level put categories, I would love for you to list out some categories of excellence that people need to be in. Ken.
Obviously, my number one would be knowledge. I mean, knowledge is my favorite thing. And knowledge has been in the name of the the company that I built. It was the name of the first education technology platform I launched when I was working for a retail lender. So knowledge is power. Like, clearly, knowledge is power. So the use of knowledge, the showcasing of knowledge, you have to know what you're doing. Like, there's certain things people aren't willing to do, and one of those is research. And so because nobody does it, the bar is super low on being able to be more researched than anybody you're competing against. That would be the first. Second one, UX. So we just hired 2 new UX people, one for our enterprise accounts and one for our B2C accounts in Q+. because user experience is got to be the focus of everybody right now. What does it feel like to work with me? When somebody says something, what does that trigger? What's the process that gets triggered when somebody says a certain word or words, right? Yeah, I'm thinking about buying. Cool, that should trigger a process that enters them into your user experience. And that user experience is the most amazing experience ever. Like people feel it, right? And we all have, I feel like customer service is getting better, but also I feel like sometimes it's not because we aren't willing to put ourselves in the shoes of the user, right? What does a borrower want and what do they get? What does a realtor want in a relationship with you and what are they getting? And if you start thinking like a user, then you can build the correct user experience. And Dave, you're obviously you set the tone on user experience with your software that, here's what the experience is. And you're going to be obviously different than everybody else if you're using those things. So those are two. And then use of technology. It blows my mind when I talk about AI in a room and most of the room is like, yeah, I asked it a question one time and it didn't answer me correctly. And it's like, wow. So that goes back to knowledge, right? But it's actually exercise of AI, like using it to solve so many problems for you that you're not wasting time doing things that are painful and step by step takes so much time. I can make an Excel spreadsheet in seconds. And I haven't used Excel in years because now when I needed to make a spreadsheet, I just had AI do it for me. So leverage of AI is going to be definitely one of those things because it just frees you up to do the things you're supposed to do instead of being bogged down in the things that you're doing that are honestly wastes of time.
So
Those would be my top
guys, so I want everyone to write on a piece of paper, UX, like put UX over here, and then CX, customer experience. And this is one thing I believe a modern mortgage advisor focuses on, obsesses on, is what is my customer experience. And remember, you have a couple different customers. You have a realtor experience, you have a family experience or a borrower experience, and really audit that. And then you have a user experience. And I've noticed that there are some loan officers that do a really good job of always optimizing their workflow. That's another thing, like what's your workflow experience? And then there's some that, they just keep patching it together to where it's not scalable, it's not consistent, it's not awesome. And to your point, Ken, I definitely believe that the modern, the mortgage professional of the future is an advisor, and they kick ass with tech. I know I've got to jump in a few minutes here, so I'm going to ask another question and then kind of interweave you, Sean, in leading it. There's a lot of mortgage professionals watching this. And guys, I want everyone to give me a score right now from a technology perspective. Level one is you should do it. Level two is you do it. You're kicking ass with tech in your company. Level three is you're so good at knowing it and doing it, you could teach it. Level four is it's a habit, like you leverage tech. And level five is it's the essence of you and your results support it. Like you are killing it. What level are you at using technology? Level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So we've got a 1, we've got a 3, we've got a 2, we've got a 1, 2. Guys, first of all, thank you for all the self-awareness, all the transparency.
So
We got
honest.
level 3. We got a 3+. Go, Darren. Come on, guys, let's keep it going. Let's get more people in the audience. Is anybody a level 4 or 5? Like it's a habit. So I don't know what Sean gave himself. Oh, go ahead, Ken. What are you?
He gave himself a 3.
Yeah.
I live it. I don't know what level addicted is, but
here's where I'm gonna. Sean's not perfect. He doesn't do everything, but everybody gets a mortgage coach experience. He's on Zoom every day. He's doing video every day. He's leveraging social media. Sean, you are a 5, bro.
I don't think you're a 3, dude. I think we all call BS on that 3.
No, you're
you don't need to be humble.
You're not now there is another level. There's there are things that you're not doing, but and here's where I want to leave you two to brainstorm this a little bit, is what are the things that a level 5 does? Sean, what are the things that are holding you back from being a level 5. And then at some point in this conversation, Sean, if you don't mind, even if I have to jump, I would love to hear from Ken, like, how do we take someone who's a level 1, they're not doing it. Like I know I've mentored people on tech, and I'm like, first thing you got to do is you got to be able to download an app. So know your passwords. Next thing you know, you need to know how to use Uber. You need to know how to book travel, use airline travel. You need to know how to use Apple Pay. You need to, I recommend video. But I would love for Ken you to lean into the community. And like, if we were going to put someone through a technology boot camp, if you could, at some point, like, what would be the Ken Perry for all the level 1s that are on this call? And by the way, almost everybody is a 1 or a 2. Make that a topic. So, any thoughts on all that, Ken?
Dude, I have major thoughts on this. So you don't have to be a 5, right? You need to have one on your team. I think sometimes we hire LOAs when we should be hiring A's, like just the assistant part of the loan officer assistant. Like, you need somebody to help you that knows all of that stuff. And the brilliant thing is most loan officers have a kid that's that age and can help you with those things. So you need somebody that can leverage technology and then teach you what you need to know so that you're proficient at those things, but that somebody else is doing the work for you. And whether that's a contractor, whether that's somebody to come in and consult with you, whether that's somebody that just can make it easy, you need to know when you've reached your limit and the need is higher than that limit and your ability to get there is impossible. So if you're a level 1, you don't use technology very often, I don't think you should go in and be an expert on all of these tech platforms, but somebody's got to know on your team how to do it. And if you can't bring on a team member, then you're gonna have to bootstrap that sucker and like go in and you will need to learn because you don't have somebody that can do that. We have a tech. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to push back on that a little bit because I used to do that. And I do think you don't need to, like, if you've got a team, you don't need to do the data input on a MortgageCoach TCA. And there are things that you could delegate to your team. Would you be delivering a better customer experience? And would you be delivering a better workflow experience for your team if everybody could do everything? Yes. So I do want to push everybody that to kill it, to be the loan officer of the future. You're a data-driven mortgage advisor, and you need to use technology, and then you need to be really good at creating a workflow experience, that scales, having team. I don't know, Sean, what's your take on all that?
Yeah, you fill your weaknesses. I think a lot of times, like going back to what Ken was saying, I tried AI and it didn't work. So there's a fear point of we're going to be replaced, right? I put something into AI, it didn't work, so that means that I'm better than AI. No, it can be a tool, but I don't think AI will ever have the knowledge that a current modern mortgage professional does. And I think that is what creates your user experience or your customer experience.
Yeah, it doesn't have context, right? Nor does it ever have relationships, nor does it ever have, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't have relationships because there's apps now that people are falling in love. But it doesn't have, there's so much it can't do based on the context provided by us humans. And I think that's the number one thing we're learning about AI. We dove in and people are like, it's going to be everything. It'll change everything. And it's like, yeah, it will change everything, but not in the way that we thought. And it's not going to take over anytime soon because it doesn't have the context we have. There's also a trust factor involved in it. People still don't trust, but if you know how to leverage it, then I think it's probably the easiest thing to learn AI. Of all the technology I know of, it's the easiest because you just ask it to teach you. Like I have a relationship with my ChatGPT. I programmed the button on my phone to just pop up voice ChatGPT, and we just talk on the way home from seminars. And I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And she gives me new perspective on different things. But I've asked her to teach me Spanish. She started working on that. And so it's if you know how to talk to people, you know how to talk to AI. And that's why it's probably one of the easiest technologies to ever learn.
What are your thoughts, Ken? And AI has a good point where I've been trying to discipline myself to use it daily. And I'm not, but I'm 3 times a week and driving it, but what are your thoughts on, because you've built AI into the Knowledge Coop.
Mhm.
What's your prescription to everyone on this call? You want to be the mortgage advisor of the future? Like, give us a roadmap from Ken Perry, how they should be using it and how often they should be using it. What is the push?
Yeah, I use it every day. So it's a time saver. It's also a cheat code. So the one we built, I mean, we've pumped in all of the Fannie, Freddie, FHA, USDA, and VA, all of the guidelines, all of the everything there is to know about all of those, and you could just ask it questions to get your answer. So it solves for all the time that you spend trying to figure out if you can do something, and it solves for your emails you're sending your underwriter that you really shouldn't be sending your underwriter an email about something so basic and that can be found in the guidelines. But you just don't have to look up the guidelines anymore. You just ask AI and it tells you where are the guidelines that exist. And so that's what we've done to try and shorten the time it takes to give an answer to a consumer, because you could just get those answers right there. On everything else, like I mean, we use it. I use it personally on, answering me on what's a great time to put something out on social media. I use it for what I don't like is using it for social media posts. So you'll never see my personal Facebook, you'll never see me post something that was written by AI, because I don't believe in that. It's too easy to see it's AI and it becomes very inauthentic. And so you still need that human factor. There's still a pushback on anything that looks like it might be AI. I mean, I run everything through an AI detector to find out if somebody wrote it or if they didn't before I even believe that it's something I should pay attention to. So I think people are doing damage sometimes to their brand when they're using AI to deliver. And they're not modifying those messages. And then, of course, video. I don't believe in using video for using AI video to deliver things unless you're doing something funny. You're memeing something out and you want to do it, but otherwise, it's got to be you personally. So, using it for making marketing easier. I've tried with so many art things using DALL-E. It's such a pain still. It'll get better, but the thing about technology, especially AI, is the more you use it now, as it gets better, you don't need to figure out this back here. And I think with technology, sometimes we lose because we weren't an early adopter. By the time we decide we're going to get in, there's too much to learn and we weren't there for it. So that's the reason I'm in AI every day, because I want to go, okay, once I get used to it, get those muscles, worked on, then I can make it, way better as it grows. And if I miss it, I don't use Instagram ever. The only thing you see from me on Instagram is because my Facebook posts over on Instagram, but I just didn't dive into Instagram early and I went all in on Facebook. So I also don't use LinkedIn very well because I know how to use it, but it's not part of my daily routine. It's not part of my habits, and it probably should be. But, I went all in on one and I feel like I got lost a little bit on the others.
So I got, there's a couple things I want to touch on there because, well, one, I just subscribed to Coop Plus, which I've never used before.
Yay!
But
that's awesome.
Yeah, Ken clearly knows AI better than I do, and if I can go to one place and use that, like it's $30 a month, and it was I'm just gonna do it. Like I think a lot of times we'll hit a fear button of I don't want to waste the money, but it's going to be worth it, right? So I think we've got to overcome that, and people have already taken time to put things in place that'll make our lives easier. So it lets me do other things. But I think one thing I'm just noticing with Ken here is if Ken wanted to become an originator again today, he would do it and probably crush most of us because of his knowledge base, right? And he doesn't have a scarcity mindset of I need to be on Instagram because everyone else is on Instagram. I can replace myself with video. That's inauthentic. And I see so many people trying to do those things. So I think with just the last 2 minutes that Ken spoke to, there's so much in that we can all take away and learn from. Be who you are, post where you want to post, and be okay with that. Like now I have to go back to Facebook so that I can see Ken's stuff because I'm an Instagram guy. So now I have to jump back on there to just so I can see what Ken's doing, but that's a value to me, right? So I think, if you're on these calls, there's so much to learn from it. And yeah, just rewind the last 2 minutes, like what Ken just said, I got 4 key things out of that will instantly either help me originate more or create a better customer experience just from the last 2 minutes. So Ken, with what you were talking earlier about what you did. So where were you speaking yesterday?
I was in Boise, Idaho, one of my favorite places to speak. The people in Boise are absolutely awesome.
And what was the event?
We were doing a NMLS 8-hour CE class out there.
Okay, cool. And
Look
we were,
at
and so
Savage getting on his private jet.
yeah, living the dream. He just wanted to make sure we saw
Hey,
that.
hey, take care, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to pop in. Take care, everybody.
That was
Uh,
awesome.
Yeah. So for me, I sit by myself for the most part. I really don't interact with a lot of
Mhm.
other loan officers. So when you're doing trainings like live trainings, I always prefer to personally go to a live training for my CE because I
Mhm.
learn a lot there and I get to interact and engage. What are you like? What are your observations of? I'm sure you go in the room and it's like this loan officer gets it and is kind of a standout, and then these ones you guys are kind of in trouble. Like what did you get any of that yesterday that would benefit all of us?
Yeah, it helps to get a vibe across the country. Like dropping into rooms, it's something I'll never stop doing. Being on a stage is where I live. Like that's my favorite thing to do. And so part of it is not just the relationships you gain just by being in front of people and speaking, but all the breaks and lunch, and you start just asking, where are we at with this, and where are you at with business, and how's the market going? And so our class, I mean, when I stand up in front of a group, we're talking about what's happening right now. So spend a lot of time on the NAR settlement. The crazy thing was when I asked how many people had read the settlement, and 4 people raised their hands. And I was like, maybe you didn't hear me right. Let me just say it again. How many of you read the settlement? And 4 people, same 4 people. And I was kind of like, why? Why would you not? If that's the biggest thing on the mind of the people that are sending you business right now, and you want to partner with them and them to see you as a partner and not as a commodity, then why wouldn't you compete using the knowledge that you have about the thing they're scared about? And more, everything written about anything is garbage. And I don't read anything people have said about things because it's usually a complete, it's leaning towards the way that they want you to get something out of it, right? So when I talk to realtors, I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, oh, it's probably, business as usual. I'm like, oh, so you read from these people. And if people are like, oh, we're all going to die, it's like, oh, you probably read something that was written by these people. But if you read the settlement, it is what it is. And it's not hard to read. It's really easy. It's not even a long settlement. Like you read that and then you go, okay, this is going to give me a baseline to have conversations. And so that's a piece that usually shocks me, is when people don't know something that is, on the business front is really important for you to know. And I always say, it's not like you don't have time right now. Like I get it. 2020, 2021, we didn't get better. We just tried to hold the ship together. But 22 and 23 and 24 should all be used for filling the holes in the ship so that the next time we go through something, you don't have those things break. And I don't think the industry is very good at doing that. I think that we go, oh, we got through it. And then we leave all of the bad stuff in place so that next time it happens, we break again. But one of those things is like, okay, this is going to be a great time for me to get better at my craft. What you just subscribed to has over 100 hours of how to do loan training, all video training on how to do loans. And whether it's reading credit reports or understanding, how to lead, how to sell, it's all in there. But people need to be going back to that. Like we created it because we think the industry needs it, but you've got to keep going back to that, like sharpening your sword and getting your tool chest built so that you can, be ready to rock. And I'm not seeing that like I would have hoped. I think I'm seeing more emotion of like, oh gosh, that was hard. And if all of your competitors are sitting back saying that was hard, and you're the one going, let's make that easier next time, then you win.
There's so I think everything comes back to knowledge, right? So everything Ken's kind of dropped today is because he has taken the time to understand and learn things. You cannot solve other people's problems unless you understand what the root problem is. Like, especially with the NAR thing, that is pure emotion, right? The mortgage industry has put out articles about their opinion of it. Every realtor has voiced their opinion. I think a lot of times realtors forget, and we forget, that consumers can see what we're posting online. We think we're just speaking to our own industry.
Uh-huh.
And so,
dude, the amount of people I've seen on Facebook, realtors that say, I'm not showing that house. Yeah, good luck selling, sucker. It's like, oh my gosh, you're violating the settlement on Facebook.
Right. And I saw a video, same thing. It was like that he's showing somebody something on MLS and it says it's a 2%. She goes, wait, what was the 2%? He's like, oh, no, let's not bother with that house. And that was pre-settlement. And I was like, ooh, that didn't age well. Like,
Oh
but
my
that's what realtors are
gosh.
doing, is making jokes to our
Right.
industry, but everybody can see you. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And so I did a presentation, just kind of what I really want to drive home with everyone is, if you're not learning, you're losing. Like, if you're not
Right.
doing all the things that Ken's telling us to do, we are all losing. I spent the last 7 months preparing for tomorrow because it was inevitable it was going to happen. And I did a presentation Wednesday and the realtors ate it up. But one, to Ken's point, she goes, I have a new client. They signed their agreement. They said they only want me to show them homes where their seller is going to pay the compensation. And she's like, so that's what I'm going to do. And I go, so think of what you just said. Because of your lack of understanding of the different ways that we lenders can make this work for everyone, truth be told, nothing's changed if you look at it right. I was like, I will enable you to show that buyer every single house that they want to see. They should not be limited because you think you can't be compensated. It's my job to solve that problem. I was like, well, how do you do that? I gained knowledge. And like, so I was a wholesale rep for 15 years. And when I was working with loan officers, the tagline on my email was knowledge solution support. Like, Ken's is knowledge coop. Everything starts with knowledge. Like, we just have to start there. And I think for me, getting into where we are, like, if you're not ready for this and you haven't taken the time to understand, you better get your crash course quick. Otherwise you're going to be taken over by the mortgage advisors that are doing it. And Ken's teaching us all, right? So Ken, with the compliance side of things, because like the NAR settlement, realtors, I've been telling realtors that they're basically where we were in 2010, right? Like, you guys are going through what mortgage went through in 2010. It's not fun. You're going to be under a microscope.
2% of what the mortgage industry went through. 2% of it. This is not, it's the first time they've ever had to comply with anything.
Right. They've skirted through everything that's ever happened. And I think they thought they'd skirt through this and they didn't. And it's become the biggest opportunity that I've seen to grow business. But we have to be in a place to do that. So as far as like just the CE side of things go, like, why did you choose, what was it about like education or knowledge that you're like, I'm going to go teach these guys how to be better?
Good question. So I was an AE also, and I was at option one, and then I went to homecomings. And what I can't do is I can't watch people do something wrong if I know how to do it right without helping. And so the reason I gave up my my job as an AE, and I actually just a few months ago looked at my W-2s from 2003 when I started my company, and I had just crushed it from January to February, and I made $6,000 from March to December. So I didn't do this for the money. And what the funny thing is, my memory is I was super happy. I mean, I was stressed sometimes, but I was also happy because I was teaching. And so I never knew anything about compliance at all. And what I did is I just started going, okay, what do people need to know? Because if they pay me to teach them, I better teach them right. And I better teach them how to do this business in a way that's going to make them both successful. I call it legal and lucrative. I want them to be successful, but I also want them to be successful doing things right. I want good guys to win. And so I read a law and I was like, holy, like, nobody knows what's in here. Like, everybody's been doing this wrong. And so my passion for compliance has just been, everything I read shows me that there's something I need to be teaching people so that they can do things right. And that really drove all of the things I've done with compliance. But I never started a company to teach people compliance. So like when I'm talking about, this next year for our CE, we just flew in this guy who just got out of prison for 13 years of mortgage fraud out in Tampa, Matthew Cox. He was on Dateline. He was on, they did a whole American Greed episode on him. And so my thought is, I want people to know, because my biggest fear is going to prison, because I think I wouldn't make it. And so I want everybody to know, what are the things that if you do these things, then it's bad. And so I flew him out from Tampa, sat down and interviewed him, and then put him on the podcast. We just released episode 1 of the podcast for that this week. But that's the type of stuff that, like, I'm not in it to teach CE. I don't care about certificates. I'm in it because I know that there's things people need to learn. And my best avenue for that, one of my best ones, is if I can get it approved, because then it's, you're getting credit and you're learning and becoming better.
So you hit on something that I think, have you heard of the Connect podcast?
No.
I just started listening to it this week. I've had a couple long drives. And it's
Writing that
basically
down. Okay.
this guy that, yeah. So this guy went to prison for like drug smuggling or whatever. And now he interviews prison people. And the one I listened to yesterday was like, these guys give you the picture of prison. And I think people end up there. Nobody's like, you know what? I'm going to go to prison.
Right.
Listening to these, I'm like, I would be deathly afraid to end up there. You know, like I just want nothing to do with it. And
totally.
I remember I was at Countrywide way back when, and I remember there was one guy working behind me as an AE, and he goes, Sean, look at this list. And it was like the FBI's list of all these mortgage people for fraud. He's like, a bunch of my clients are on here. And I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about any of that because I never did anything wrong. So he was scared that it was going to trickle down to him. Right. And to hear a guy went to prison for 13 years. I think a lot of the things that we do is we try to skirt around the rules, right? Especially in the last 2 years, we're just like, can I make this sound like it's a primary residence when it's actually an investment property? I don't mess with any of that stuff, right? And this morning, I was thinking of you this morning, I got a quote from a client and she said, she sends me the quote and it says, you have to keep this mortgage for 6 months, right? And I'm like, no, you don't. But where you do that is self-preservation, where self-preservation, I think, can come back and be the thing that gets you, your license is gone. Like your livelihood is gone over one misspoken truth, right? And so, I mean, what do you think about like, how should we be approaching it when everyone's trying to make money, everyone's trying to get through, you know, I think these are 2 of the toughest years we've seen, you know, is it worth one deal?
Right. Dude, that you point out such a good, that 6-month thing is so interesting for a number of reasons, right? So one of the biggest reasons is now you have all this, as soon as the rates dropped, there was all this conversation about, well, they can't refi in 6 months because I would have to give back my commission. And I think it's such an interesting way to go about it. So we're like, oh, hurt the consumer, tell them it's not a good time, just hold on so you don't give that money back. Instead of thinking, why are we giving money back on loans that we did? Is it legal for them to claw back that revenue? Maybe it's not. Like, let's look into that. What if the associations in America around mortgage, what if they all said, we're not doing it? Like, suck it. We're not signing your agreements. Then it would force lenders to have to re-look at that and go, okay, well, what does that mean for us? But our immediate reaction is go for the shortcut. And shortcuts are usually not okay. That's where people make mistakes. They go for the shortcut and then they do something they shouldn't do. But dude, I was speaking to a group last year in Bend, Oregon, when the Freedom Mortgage case came out, when they talked about you can't pay for your realtor. You can't get a technology and then give realtors passwords to that technology so they can use it for free. And in that room, somebody asked, well, why are there so many software companies that do this? And like open house flyers that you're making that the realtor's not paying for. Why are so many software companies in business that do this wrong? And I said, because you pay them. Why would they make a change if you're perfectly happy to write a check to them every month and lead them down that road? They're not going to make a change. They're just going to let you do it wrong. It's crazy that we don't stop and think about those things. Like with realtors not going after Zillow. Zillow just came out and said, we're going to be the super app where you can buy your house, sell your house, do all these things. And realtors are still paying advertising dollars to them.
Yeah.
Like you're giving money to the person that's vocally, like out loud on CNBC saying, we're going to take all the realtors out. And you're like, how much do I need to pay you this month to get those leads? Like it's bonkers, but we don't stop and think, do our research, band together, and then go after the stuff that we should be going after.
Yeah. We vote with our dollar, right? I was at a thing yesterday where this guy started an organization. It's a really cool app. It's called FRDM. And it basically tracks slave trade through the supply chain. So you can go on this app and see like what level of slavery
I'm writing so many things
was
down
involved. And everyone's questions after, and he's like, it's inevitable to get away from it entirely. But you can do better. And if you have a whole bunch of people trying to do better, ultimately it'll change because the dollars don't get where they need to go. And so, you know, like this shirt costs $4.53. There's a reason it's so cheap, right? Like I know who made this shirt, and it made me rethink that.
Yeah.
But if we just change how we vote with our dollar, it'll change. And like what you just, I think again, what Ken just said about realtors. So who on this call has had realtors say, hey, will you help me buy leads on Zillow? Right. And we all roll our eyes and we don't want to do it. instead you could go, hey, why are you still supporting the organization that's trying to get rid of you? You can only do that if you have knowledge on what to do instead, right?
And a plan for like, let's strategize. I have some ideas. Like if that's followed by, we could do it better and different, then they're going to listen. Cause then they're like, wait, what'd you just say? And oh, you have a plan. And then you build that with them.
Yeah. And
but people don't, dude, or else it wouldn't exist.
Yeah. And so it's like, we're going to keep feeding the hand that bites us. And and
that is such a great phrase. I love it.
Copyright 20, whatever year it is. I just thought of that.
Yeah.
But basically it's like, okay, so when a realtor calls and says, hey, Sean, do you want to sponsor my Zillow spend? My immediate reaction and emotion is no. Like, you're like, why all you asked me for is money. But if I instead listened to what you said and said, hey, what if we could do this on our own and cut out the person who's biting you, right? That's trying to get rid of you more so now than ever. And then you have their attention, right? But you can only make that statement if you have knowledge. And so I think there's so many resources and things available, but we just choose not to do it because we stay in the weeds of whatever. Oh, the market sucks. This sucks. My loans are hard right now, whatever it is. So we have a reason, which is an excuse not to learn. What would the top 5 things, obviously AI is one of them, but what are like the top 5 things? Like if you were, you know what, I'm tired of teaching loan officers, I'm just going to go do it myself. What would your top 5 action steps be to jump back in right now?
Oh, dude, good question. And I could crush it out there. I just don't want to. My last loan I ever did was in 2002. And I was like, this is hard. You know, I don't want to, it's not what I love. But my first thing, I think the biggest mistakes loan officers make, and it's really not a loan officer mistake, it's a company mistake, is how hard it is to apply for a loan. If you were to take notes from Figure, so I just did a little test to find out, you know, we just had our 4th water leak. I can't use insurance anymore because they don't like that. And so I just like, maybe I'll get a HELOC, you know, we'll see. And I just went on Figure and ran through the process of HELOC. And in about 3 minutes and 30 seconds, I was approved for a HELOC and they really want me to get going. And then I was like, wow, that's super fast. And then I talked to a loan officer friend, and you have to fill out an application, and then you have to do like all these things. And I don't know what the rate is yet. And it's like, if we just use them as a model, not saying that everybody has to have technology that's as good as what Figure does, because that's literally how they do business. Like they don't have, there's no humans calling me or connecting with me. Oh, there's a lot of people calling me now because apparently they pull my credit, but we'll talk about trigger leads some other day, but yeah, it's, you have to be close. You can't send over a PDF and be like, fill this out. You can't send over go to my website and fill out this application. You need to engage with your consumers. And if your tech doesn't do it, then you better, right? So you've got to, so I would know what my consumer wants, but it would be so easy to apply. Like we have this policy at the Coop. We have to make it, if somebody wants to give us money, then we have to make it really easy for them to do that. Cause that's like the best kind of client, is the one that wants to give you money. And so we hired a chief strategy officer, and he came in and he's like, dude, it takes me 7 clicks to become a subscriber to the Knowledge Coop. Why 7 clicks? And I'm like, I don't know, make it better. And so they started working on it. Now it's probably 3 clicks for you. So we are always like, you did it in seconds, but if we had this call last year, it wouldn't have been that way because we didn't think like a consumer. So everything I did, it would be think about a consumer wanting to give me money or get a pre-call. Well, how easy should I make that? By the way, the second thing, and Dave's not on the call, I can talk about him. I would absolutely do a mortgage coach on every single deal. Like there's no question about it. That's the proof is there, right? If every study I've ever seen that companies have done about mortgage coach, less pricing exceptions, faster to close. In my opinion, you have to prove your value so much more now than ever before because it's so easy to just get a loan somewhere. And so if you prove your value, if you're doing it via sending me a video with the numbers and all that stuff, then it's like, oh, sweet. Now I know you've committed to me, right? If you send me a link, that's not a commitment. If you send me the messaging, like, here's what I've done, whether that starts with a video, and I don't text that much. I send videos now just because I don't want to write. And so if you ever send me a thing, like I sent a text because I was logging into this, but normally you wouldn't have seen that. I would just go, hey guys, super excited, can't wait, because text sucks at delivering messages. And so I would be using video for everything. I would be using, and we, like when I think about what's built our brand, video has built our brand. We make hilarious videos. We're about to release a video called Jerome, where it's us singing Jerome, please don't raise my rates, in the tune of Jolene. And so we do a ton of video here. We have 3 studios behind me. And so that's part of what's gotten us the brand that we've built, is that we're going to be funny and we're going to be knowledgeable and right. And so I would just continue down that road, because I mean, doing loans, loans are what you sell, right? But who you are is what sells those. And so, because I can, like I said, I went on to Figure, I can go get a loan, but I closed it down and called my loan officer. I'm like, hey, this is what happened on Figure. What do you think? So people want to do business with you if they like you and they trust you and they know you've got better information than they have, right? So you have to prove that, and you're proving that constantly. So I would just go huge on social media like I do now, and then make sure that they knew I did loans.
Well, and so I want to come back to what Ken said at the very beginning. He said knowledge is one of the pillars, and then he said UX. I didn't know what UX is. I wrote UX ? I can prove it. It's on my notepad. And then he said user experience, and I went, oh, so what I've been saying lately is I saw this. It was an Instagram live, and these 2 dudes were talking, and one guy sitting in a hotel room, and the guy asked him what hotel he was in, and he goes, oh, I can't remember the name of it. I've stayed here a bunch of times. And the guy's like, oh, it's so remarkable, you can't remember the name. And I got obsessed with the word remarkable, right? And the key to that word is in the first half of it, remark. Like, is your business good enough for people to speak about? And then I was like, what do people say about mortgage? They're either going to talk if it's really, really, really good, or it sucks, right? Nobody talks about the middle. So is your user experience remarkable? And Ken just described how if he came back in right now, he would create a remarkable experience. And that's what I focus on is this an experience that people are willing to talk about? And will they say good things about it? Going back to the coop. So I just signed up for all my CE for 11 states, and it took a minute, thanks to also Google having all my credit cards saved, which is not a great thing for my budget, but it was done. Right. And those of you guys that know me, is I try to keep everything as authentic as I possibly can. I was like, I'm going to do my CE through Knowledge Coop this year. Add to cart, done. Oh, Ken just said this, they have AI in there that makes life easier. Done. Like it doesn't have to be difficult, but the user experience through that was created on purpose. And think about, can you provide something none of us want? I don't want to do CE.
Totally. We're the proctologist with the smallest finger.
Yeah. But think of what Ken's goal is by making all these funny videos, doing this and that. He's going, okay, I provide something 0 loan officers want. How do I have them have a great experience? Every loan officer on this call, we all provide something that everyone wants to get rid of as fast as possible. How do you provide a great experience for something nobody wants? And I think that, like, Ken has very intentionally done that. I have very intentionally done that. And my ask of you is that you do the same thing, right? So Ken's in our world in a different place. He serves us. We serve people who want to buy homes and refinance. But the intention is crystal clear. It's not by accident.
Oh, dude, my new favorite thing to do in classes, because a lot of companies are part of Lenders One, which offers free CE through one of my competitors. And so my favorite thing now to do in class is, how many of you had an offering from your company where they would have paid for your CE? And a bunch of people raise their hand. And I'm like, and you're here. So I'm competing with free and I'm winning. And so you have to be good enough to be able to, like you said, the experience has to be so good. And then it has to be messaged out. One of the things we struggle with is when we're selling something that nobody knows could be as good as it is. And so it's like, don't you want this? And it's like, no, we've had it. It sucks. And it's like, but we do it differently. And they're like, how different could you be? But then once you've experienced it, we don't lose you because it's amazing. And so, but if the experience is amazing, then all I have to do then is create awareness, right? If you have an awareness problem, but you have a great experience, awesome. If you have a bad experience, awareness is only going to hurt you, right? Like the movie Geely back in the day, they spent more money to market the movie Geely, and it was Ben and Jen. It should have been a winner, and it was a sucky movie. And so all that money they put into helping people understand that the experience is bad is like a nightmare scenario for Hollywood,
Wow.
right? So in mortgage, if you create the experience, then you figure out that you actually want to do something with it, or then you figure out, okay, now we've got the experience, now let's get awareness. It's in that order, right? It's experience first, and UX is user experience. I didn't even use the letters UI, which is our user interface, which is how pretty is it when you go there. But the user experience, if that's dope, then cool. Now let's just go tell people we have it, right? Push button get mortgage wasn't, they had built a really amazing platform for delivering loans, right? And it's all automated. The push button get mortgage is when they were ready for that to be real, right? So they didn't go push button get mortgage and then we'll figure out how to make it right. No, they're like, this is amazing. Now let's get more people. And I think every loan officer's got to do that. I'm going to get on a soapbox for a second. I also think loan officers should be working together to do that. And I feel like so many loan mortgage companies, every LO is an island, and we're not brainstorming and we're not getting together and figuring out how you could do it. We always, I don't know if I said this already, I just said it yesterday, so it may still be in my head, but we always do the list of what could beat us. So you create a board of like, okay, what could beat us on a whiteboard? If you wanted to compete with me, what would you have to do, right? Well, you'd have to go free. And they do get some of that business because it's free and people don't want to spend money, right? I always think it's funny, by the way, when a loan officer will say, I can't believe I got shopped for price, and then they shop me for price. It's like there's a reality of people shop for price. So get off your, you understand that when you're shopping for price, you can't bag on people that go for lower quality than you. And so, that's up there. How else could you beat us? Well, you'd need a lot to beat our quality. It would be ridiculous for somebody to try. And you need, basically we create the list and we go, okay, now let's do that, right? If it could beat us, then let's be there first. And that's how we create the list of user experience that we want to create. When I talk about, I always say to loan officers in classes this year, I'm like, what if you sold real estate services for $1,000? If a mortgage company had a real estate team in their company that did $1,000 buyer's agent deals, all you want is the mortgage, right? So if you're going to get the mortgage, do $1,000 buyer's agent deal. And people are like, huh? And then I go, why won't you do it? And it's because you don't want to piss off the buyer's agents. Cool, because you'd have to be all in, because it definitely would piss off the buyer's agents. And then I say, well, if somebody did that in your market, could they take market share? The answer is yes, they actually could. And so then you go, well, then do we do it? No? Okay, well, then we got to go big into our buyer's agents. And then we have to go opposite them and be like, that's insane, right? It's either or, but you're doing the math on, if you did that math and went, if somebody did it this exact way, it would kill us. Well, then why would you wait for somebody to do it that way? You go do it that way, and then you beat everybody else. But it's that strategizing that I don't think we're doing on a regular basis. I don't think we're writing on a wall, what could beat us? There's a lot that could beat a mortgage originator. And so if you figure it out, then just become those things that could have beat you.
Well, and analyzing, if you get beat, why did I get beat? And could I have avoided it? Right.
Oh my gosh, totally.
That happened to me. I had a client, went somewhere else. Realtor sends me a thing, goes post on Instagram, goes, hey, this is it. They closed in 10 days. And I went, I've been quoting like 14 days. Right. And I'm like, shoot, I got beat, and I that was on a Saturday, and I went through the calendar backwards and said, could I do this in 10 days? Text my team, which is a loan officer, assistant, and processor. And I said, hey, I think we can do 10. We're going to commit to this from now on. And it's fast and furious, but we can do it. But I would not have taken that step had I not gotten beaten. And maybe I wouldn't have gotten beaten if I did what Ken said and just said, how could I get beat? Right. Because we get complacent, we get comfortable. And then Ken, what you said about Rocket Mortgage, I think, push button, get mortgage. Rocket Mortgage wins so many deals because they're the loudest and they're impressive marketers, right? Push button, get mortgage. They said, they made mortgage a verb for one commercial. They were saying like mortgage better, something like that. They made it a verb. And I was like, oh, well played. But for us, we're like, we know we're better. Like everyone that is a Mortgage Coach user, anyone who's probably on this call, you're like, I know I'm better than Rocket Mortgage. And it pisses me off that everyone goes to them. Well, we just haven't been loud enough, but is a mortgage push button, are all mortgages created equal, right? There's an opportunity with our user experience and language to show them why that's not a good idea, but we have to take action steps towards that. So So I just think that
I would have done a video, by the way, when that came out. I would have done a video of somebody trying to push a button and then like, why is there no mortgage? And you could spin that like crazy. Now you're more popular, in that you're using it. You're not bagging on Rocket. You're just making fun of that concept.
Well,
because it's a dumb concept. We all know there is literally no push button get mortgage.
But they started with the user. What does somebody who's buying a house want to hear? What are they currently hearing? Getting a mortgage is impossible. It's a pain in the butt, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What if we built a system to where we made them think all they got to do is press a button? It's such an opposite experience that they might just freaking try it. And once they're in, they got them, right? So did they press a button? No, they pressed like 12. But they took perception and created a new reality. And we need to be doing the same thing. That's why I love the user experience. Like as far as, UI, I'm learning all these new terms. With UI, like what would a user interface be?
Yeah, I think I'd have to think about that these are all like tech-based stuff, but I think so the experience on like, where is everything? The user interface is like, okay, what are my eyes drawn to? Am I drawing their eyes to the right thing? I think the crossover for mortgage is, what are you drawing their eyes to? Like, what is it you do? I've got friends. I always love when somebody says, I want to go to another mortgage company. Do you have any you recommend? And it's such a great question I get asked, because then I go, my answer back is, what do you want? Because based on the brand and how people have set up their, like, what for me, I can tell you where to go. If you like a huge company, okay, there's a lot of them, and I can tell you what they focus on and who the leaders are of those companies, and I can match the right person with the right, you're going to hate this company because they do exactly the reason you're leaving your current company, they actually do that too. And so the way companies have set up their brand, I can figure out, where to place them. And it's really the same thing with a mortgage. I can refer, I've got a buddy that does a lot of VA loans. And so if I get a veteran, it's like this person is like, their whole brand is VA. I can absolutely send it over. So how are you positioning yourself to be the one? There's a guy in Portland that's done a lot of loans for people that work here. And his big thing is he is a compliance freak. Like, the guy wants to do everything right at a low enough cost to make it make sense, but he's never going to do anything wrong. So with young people, I can send them there and know that they're going to get guided the right way. And so I'm always looking at, what do I know about them based on what they've communicated to the world? And from there we can go. And I think some people, if you're just absent on social media, you're insane. Like, you will never get any young people to do loans with you unless you're on social media. And so that's the place where you go, this is what you can trust about me. Right. And yeah, well, that's the closest correlation I can make.
No, I love that, because my two takeaways, we're already almost done here, but my two takeaways from that is, user experience is, what is the experience? Obviously, I want mine to be remarkable. And if I think of user interface, what do they see? For me, the visual is clearly MortgageCoach from end to end and even after. So I have my user interface, I have my user experience. They can always be better. So, man, that went fast. I
know, totally. We can do 5 more hours.
I know. So just in closing, like using Dave's terms, the modern mortgage advisor is what to you?
It's somebody who intentionally decides what they're going to do to get more business and goes and does those things. So whatever it's going to take to get there, most people don't make that decision. I want to do a keynote called Decide, Act, Manage Next. Follow my damn program. They don't make that decision. And if you don't make a decision, then you're not really going to be able to go the right direction. So once you make a decision, you act on that, then you manage the process, and then you figure out that next big decision to make. It's actively working on your business constantly. Like you did, dude. That 10-day thing is rad. When you were like, let's actively work on this.
Yeah.
You can't ignore it. You can't be like, darn, I guess I lost another deal. You go, why did we, and do we have to?
Yeah. So it's always analyze, keep pushing forward, choose your audience, right? Like the VA guy you were talking about, he chose to be, Ken thinks of him because he chose his audience, and we all have to do the same. You can't be all things to all people. Well, I guess we're at time here. I don't know. I'd love to keep chatting. This is epic. But Ken,
I wondered if it was going to boot us right in the middle of a sentence.
I know, I'm waiting. Is Paul back on to boot? No, but dude, this was really cool. I'm super stoked to play with the coop. I've never played with it. I'm going to jump in right after we get done. If anyone needs anything, we're here to help. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sean. You did a great
All right,
job.
brothers. Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon. Later.
All right, see you guys.